My family is super rich, but they are also super annoying. I was somehow not of their same performance cloth. My siblings and I were living rent-free, never had to work a day in our lives, and was all given what we needed. They acted like entitled little shits who saw themselves as the center of the universe. The rudeness, the way in which they could make people seem like they're less than human. That kind of family I did not want. But we can't help it because that's how we were brought up. We were raised thinking that the help in our home was poor, and their duty is to serve us, so we called them slum rulers. My parents were a perfect match in that they both acted the same. A narcissist father who care about only he want not what others. When I came to college, my parents wanted me to take business, so as a young adult, you could understand the family farm. But I wanted to be nowhere near that estate either, and certainly not business. I applied to college as a psych major, and nothing was going to change that. My mother tried to dissuade me, but I didn't listen to her. My mind was made up. I could never envisioned living the years that shaped them. I remember this was what I thought back then, but now I know. It was not because of their business or wealth. They could have taken the humble route and be treating people right. And one night, I had a massive fight about this with my dad. He told me if this is what you want, then I can't afford to fulfill your dreams and just leave the house. A son who would be so careless of the family that he wouldn't want to lose his own dreams and ambitions. I was angry that he said it, but not surprised. You see, my father was never a fan of anybody attempting to stand in the way his authority, and if you ever tried, he would do exactly what he wanted without feeling twice. He will regret it afterwards, but his pride never allows him to retract anything he has said. He ordered me out of the house. I was about to leave, and my mother changed his doubt, but he said that I would go. I left, and it was hard. The text available versus the lack of it was definitely a bash in my face from expecting access to everything I wanted as quickly and conveniently as possible, even with basic conveniences. Nil good thing I was smart and got a full-ride scholarship. The only responsibility that I had was to take care of myself and all my needs. I didn't believe he really threw me away, or he was just only testing if I would change my mind. A month went by, then 2 months came and leaped to half a year, and now it has been over 12 years since I got out. I have been holding my own pretty well. I didn't have a lifeline or anything at home helping me scale down literally every single thing. I was disappointed because my mom never even attempted to call. I held her in higher esteem than that. Of course my siblings and I still talked, but we only really saw each other a few times every couple of weeks. Every time we crossed paths, they would always try to give me some money, but I never took any of it. I hate dirty money from my parents. Besides, I was their older brother, so I preferred to simply give them the money. I worked at an ad agency after college, where I first got a taste of it, and fell in love. I was not unique in studying psychology, rather stood out from the entire marketing-only crowd. 4 years ago, I launched my very own agency, helping businesses with marketing and branding. I got a text from my sister last week as their dad is unwell. I was not hurt, but he told me to work with him. But I did not want to go, so denied the invitation. There's no way in hell he could really believe that I would get out of my lane to run back into his arms when the nigga left me for dead 12 years without even asking about a bitch, or reaching out ________. To me, my siblings were all I had for a family, and that we did not have parents. Seed, why? Parent never abandons its offspring. My other sister gave me a call and tried to talk some sense into me as well. I wanted them to get off my back, and they were not letting me go. Baby sisters are sometimes a such pain. I said I'd just come home this weekend so they would shut up. I had no intention of being any part of his possible deathbed statement, but I was curious what Dad wanted to say. I know, it would have been nice to have my family back together again without being a crazy gecko feud because I don't like having people think that I'm from one of those dumbass white trash families. Here is hoping it works this way, at least for the weekend. I went to the house. Being there after 12 years was downright surreal. Everything seemed to be different everywhere. The interior was more sleek GT-like. It was definitely my mom. She just has to change and build things on the house at least once a year. We drove then to the garden, and I was thrilled because my most pleasant memories of childhood were rooted there. It was a bit awkward seeing everyone again. Mom could barely look at me and had good reason not to. And that my father actually had never requested to see me himself, they told me. In fact, he had no idea I was coming. But he was definitely sick, just not life-threatening. They claimed that they had coordinated with my mom and arranged in order for us to make amends. While they now knew Dad and Mom were not proud of what happened years ago, but neither really understood how to fix the relationship. I never even got mad because I saw the heart in what they had done. Barest truth, as bats hit crazy that they were, I did indeed miss my family. I visited, and sometimes I wished there was family to share my victories with. When he instead saw me, Dad had been hiding in his study with wide eyes of disbelief. These were now goggling at the suspended mimicry I was rending from my throat. His first words were, "What the fuck are you doing in my house, Chris? And have you come to your senses finally? Will you run this family business?" I refused, and I was never going to be. He told me that I came for nothing, so I should go away. My mom and sisters would not allow it to happen. They all asked me to stay. She told my dad that I was going nowhere, and has been feeling guilty since the day he threw me out of the house. Not this time. She wasn't falling for it again. I had never seen my mom fight for someone like that about anything, which kind of made me forgive her. Mum said I had to stay in the house anyway, and my dad still wasn't moving on his decision, not until maybe after the weekend. I settled in my former room. It hadn't changed a bit. My sister said it was the haunted house room that no one would enter, so keep in mind that they only dropped by to clean up for me. I was feeling nostalgic seeing all my stuff from some years back. Honestly, I just want my family back, and hopefully things will work out. But if Dad isn't able to let things be, I will have no choice but return to being the son who is estranged from him. The next day, my sister called for me to come downstairs. I walked into the sitting room, and Dad was in there. He told me he decided that officially he did not have a son because of what happened between us. But if now, I would kneel down to appeal him and promise that yes, I will join the company. It was something everyone else thought I had a knack for, but in my head, it was not a thing. Who the hell does this man think he is, for these last 12 years? Especially when the beginning was hard, and I had to navigate everything on my own. I have a company that is doing so well, and now I do not need anything from him. I said I was not going to. He needs me more than I need him. He wants me to look after the estate he supposedly owns, and it is close to insolvency because of bad management and lack of knowledge about market. But times have changed, and the market has developed. So he wants me because it is my job. I am in the field of psychology as well, and designed to sell, so I can flip the business. I told him I would not speak to him or have any contact with the estate until he came down off his high horse and offered an apology. He was not God, and that it did not have to be the way he wanted. I also said that my sister is very good at business, but he will not allow her to take over, as it was always in his head, this would be done by a son. He's got to get over that and move forward. I'm never going to operate his businesses. My sister blew a kiss my way for saying that. The silence of pain spread everywhere, and he was not speaking. That I was leaving first thing, and they said good, so I turned around and left. I had no idea the bankruptcy news was kept from my mom and sisters, so that when they learned about it, all three were gobstuck. And his pride meant he would never seek help, or tell Ada or me or my poor mum that things weren't good. He took loans after loans so they can continue living the good life just because he did not want to look poor. My mother gave him an earful and told him his single-handed ego was the death of this family. 2 of them had wronged me, and it was so easy if I just asked for an apology. She also expressed pride in all that I had accomplished, seeing as how my agency was now viewed as one of the top agencies in our city. As much as she could use a hand with the new business, what Mom really missed was her faraway son. And she, with tears in her eyes, came to the room and said sorry. That she wasn't strong enough to leave my father, and that it's the biggest mistake of her life. But then, it got too late. Too little for a confession now. The following day, I was getting myself ready, and from the sound side of the door, there came a knock. I opened it, and there was my father. He broke down in tears. It was the first time I had ever seen a human emotion out of him. I broke down and began to cry. He said, "I am no good father of yours at all." He had wanted to contact me, I said, but he thought it was a done deal, so embraced the fraud. He told me I could go and do whatever, but he was also proud of how far I have come, plus sorry that his part in it would always be negative. I forgave him, not the a-hole. I felt for you, because my parents are no different, and support the dreams I have either, which got me a bit emotional. I have since moved out of the house about a week ago, and am still trying to find my footing. I am so glad you two are back, and that you were able to forgive. Nat, but Dad is at the hay chunks. Why are all fathers so goddamned egotistical? His son ended up perfect, but he missed it all. He would likely regret the way he treated you forever. Next story, 28F. I have a 3-bedroom flat. My friend, 27F, was going through hell, and I told her she could come stay with me. I let her rent one of my rooms temporarily while she was searching for places. It was not worded on paper or anything. This is my friend. She has been living with me for 7 months. In the end, she was a fairly good roommate. She never ate my food, paid me on time, but it did piss me off that sometimes she forgot to say her boyfriend was staying. She would always say sorry and that she was going to remember next time, but sometimes only half the times. This issue happened 2 days ago when I came home and found her boyfriend watching TV. This surprised me a little. My friend isn't supposed to be home. I would then call out and ask if she was in the other room, and he'd be like, "Nah, just waiting for her to get off work." And by now, I was more than a bit freaked out that he'd shown up without her. "How did you get in?" I sat next to him and asked. He then pointed to the key and told me she had given it to him so he could come over. I can say, genuinely, I was a bit surprised by this, and kind of mad. I told him to give me the key and leave my house. He looked momentarily surprised, and was about to protest, for she had given him the key. I replied by saying that this was my house, and she had no business doing so. He relinquished the key, obviously believing that I was a hysterical woman, and exited. Despite no one being home, when my roomie returned, I was waiting to ask her why she thought it was okay for someone else to have a key, and how had that conversation not occurred between us. Her response was, "It's cool." She then informed me of how ridiculous I was acting, and that it's her place as well, so she'd be allowed to have keys if she desired. That led to an argument and a final outburst from me that this was never her home. She just rented the room and had 2 weeks' notice, because now I really don't trust her. For 2 days now, she has attempted to convince me that I am overreacting and being unfair. She has apologized, but the only reason for doing this is because she does not think it should matter and keep begging me not to ask her to leave. Am I the a-hole? And 2 weeks is not a lot of notice to hunt for alternative arrangements, no matter what your stance on the issue may be. No, she will not be homeless. She can move to a new place, or back with her parents that she was living at before I invited her in. She be having more time if she isn't go them. Not the a-hole, massively. This is your home. Yes, you were so kind to allow her be, and look what she did with that kindness. Gave duplicate keys without telling anyone. I'm sure you would have said no if she had asked you first. In no way is that forgivable to me, and she's not even all the sorry since again she doesn't believe it was wrong of her. Not the a-hole, it's your home. It does seem like a panic decision, but naturally so. You know, so I can understand how you believed this was a reaction to an overreaction. Of course, that is totally understandable. If I have to get real, that is a really short time even for 2 weeks. I mean, she was bound to leave at some point, right? That was always going to be temporary. Next story. So I, 30M, have found myself in a bit of a mess, and I need this place to pass judgment. I had been with a single mom known as Mia, 33F, for about 6 years, Lily, her 8-year-old daughter. We were super cautious about the entire situation. Finally, she introduced me to her daughter, and things clicked. We got engaged last year on our 4th anniversary with her daughter's blessing. We were ready, but came across a hurdle which is keeping me from saying I do. I did not want someone else's biological children, nor some man to be the redeeming, teachable reason why it matters so much in real life for other men and women. He wasn't going to become my new husband anyhow. Mia was down for it, and we were in the process of getting our own children. But 5 years into the relationship, she was still taking birth control. I kept saying to her, "Babe, you know I want kids. What the fuck?" Kept delaying the conversation. Then they let her, reluctantly, but found out later she didn't want to have any more kids. She thought at first she did, but came around. Then, I said that was too bad, and walked out on the whole thing. Lily was mad, Mia has hurt, and didn't even want to speak. The next day, I was practically out the door. So I moved a few blocks over to this new house, and Lily somehow bended reality so that she figured out where I had moved to and started turning up there randomly, like would actually knock on my door. The first couple of times I answered the door and talked to her about it, explained that she was obviously welcome, but she could not just drop by without anyone telling me or my mom, because it's rude. She did again, and this time asked me why I talked to her then, as if it was Maine not. She went with me back to her mom's. We all sat down, and we had a 3-way conversation. After a small explanation, we said she had to put it down. After a few days, I was dating someone new. She and I have been in a good place, but when she parked at my house this weekend, her car was bruised. My driveways are quite slim. Her windshield was soaked with soda, and there were scrapes on her driver's side door. I reviewed the cameras at my property to find footage of someone riding up on a bike and kicking her car. But he was wearing a mask and hood. It was late at night. Bastard, I thought to myself, and then remembered Lily, but didn't know of any proof. So there I was, Sunday morning, and Zoe quadrusically knocked on my door. Again, Lily. It's like 8 a.m. I was fed up. Finally irritated, I phoned Mia to find her number had been blocked. And I tried social media, and guess what? It was blocked there too. So I called the cops. The cop came and spoke with Lily and I _. I told them what happened, and we called Mia. Mia seemed distraught, and Lily had been crying. I warned her to leave my house and never come back again. Next time she goes to jail, I will press charges. Mia should check on her daughter more, and possibly go to therapy. I deal with enough this, and maybe if she hadn't blocked me by now, I would have called the effing police. Mia shouted loads of abuse my way. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Ahem. No choice. Mia never even gave you a chance to make another option. BC, she blocked you. To Lily, you had you for nearly half of her 13 years, so it must be very hard to have lost you just like that. Nevertheless, she should realize that not being around to influence her daughter has been detrimental. As a result of this, she now invades your home unilaterally to prolong contact with you, even though neither Mia, nor indeed the girl herself, have anything more